So we are live. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and check that we're live in our group, my so-called hippie tribe. So while we wait, yay, we are. Hi, everybody. Cool. So everybody's going to be jumping on with us this morning. It is an early morning for us out here in California. It's about 9 o'clock. And we usually come on later in the day, but we have a super special guest, my friend Anna. And Anna's from the East Coast. So it's about noon her time. And I'm excited for you guys to hear from her today. Anna runs a group called The Spiritual Grind. She is a spiritual coach, works with a lot of people to talk about the ego mind, how that plays in our life. And she's got some really great stuff to talk with us about this morning. So good morning or good afternoon for you.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning from wherever we are in the world.
Right? Don't you just love this technology? It's like, you can be anywhere in the world, jump on our Facebook group through this and have some really good conversations. So let's go ahead, before we talk about your work and stuff, why don't you share with me your story and how you got to do what you do?
Okay, awesome. You don't hear that feedback?
Nope. Do you hear feedback?
I do. I don't know if it's good.
How about now?
Can you hear me now?
Uh-huh.
Is it better? Because I can't deal with that.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So hi. There's some noise coming from my computer, so I'm sorry. I'm just checking it all out. So Paige, first of all, I just want to thank you.
You are welcome. Before you go, Ashley said that the feedback is gone.
Oh, it is?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So she heard it too then, right? So I want to thank you, first of all, for putting this together. And, I know it takes a lot of vision and courage and everything. And I just think you're awesome. And I know it's not easy to run a bunch of women and, coordinate all of that stuff. So I think you're just awesome. And I thank you because, really life is really about making connections. And that's what you're doing. You're the connector. And so you've connected us to so many great people. And I just want to honor you for that, first of all. And as I'm speaking, along the way, I'm really here to serve everyone. I'm here to serve you. So if you have any questions and you have anything that I can help you with while I'm live here today, please feel free to ask and do all of that. So what got me here was, it was that struggle. It was that one moment in my life where I was at one of my lowest. And it was that defining moment and that decision that we have to make, that we realize nobody's coming to save us, right? And so I realized that nobody was coming to save me. And I was in a complete depression. And I had never, ever had anything like that happen to me before, but I could not stop crying. And so I had 2 children at the time. Actually, I had 2 children at that time. It was 2006. I had moved into my dream home. Me and my husband built our dream home. And we moved into this beautiful home that for 2 years, I focused every single day on accomplishing that dream. And so I know some of you have worked tirelessly at accomplishing a dream. And so I just want you to imagine what that feels like, right? Every single day you're working on that and you're focusing on that, and there's obstacles and you're rising above it. And so we moved into our house and everything that can possibly go wrong went wrong. And I don't know if you remember in 2006, but that was the year of the Big Short, right? That was the year that the market crashed. And so I was part of that predator lending and all of that. And so we moved in this house and our mortgage was ridiculous and it was escalating and we couldn't afford it. And I felt so guilty and shameful. And it got to that point where I just couldn't stop crying because I felt like I needed to sell my house. And, I uprooted my family, and it wasn't just about me and what did I do. And it was because I was selfish and because I was greedy and because I was trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I don't know if any of that resonates with any of you. I mean, a lot of times, right? We look at like comparing ourselves to other people and what other people are doing, and we try to keep up and we try to keep doing what they're doing. And so there was a part of me that back then there wasn't Facebook, first of all. Let's just talk about that. Like I wasn't on Facebook, in 2004 when this dream started to happen and when I started to move forward, or at least I wasn't on it anyway. And so that was just something that was happening around us, was happening in the world. Was the market was really high and I was growing my family and I just wanted more. But at that moment of time, I blamed myself and I came to that realization and that responsibility piece, right? Where I had to look in the mirror and go, holy crap, like what am I going to do? Because now that I have, felt all of this shame and felt all of this fear and felt all of this, blame and guilt and, the awfulness that I felt, and I was in that energy of depression, right? I knew at that moment, okay, I need to take responsibility because nobody's coming to save my ass. Like nobody is going to do this for me. And so I had a conversation on the phone with someone really important that day. And they said, oh, just be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And it was kind of like one of those snarky remarks, like that I got off the phone and I was like, really opening up and crying to them. And then they go and they say this thing, right? And you're like, okay. And it just totally triggered me. And I got off the phone and I felt like 1 inch taller, and there was a shift in that moment. And I said, God did not put me in this house to take it away from me. I'm supposed to be bigger than my debt. And so with no college education, and I was a hairdresser from home, I was working from home cutting hair, and I'm like, I can't cut enough heads to make the kind of money that I need right now. Like there's just not enough time, hours, or hands, to do what I need to do and make the kind of money that I need right now. And so I started to seek and search, but there was this sense of there's something more for you. I felt that at that moment. I'm like, there's something more. So I started to search, and long story short, I took my first master class with Eckhart Tolle, and that's how it was on Oprah, and I learned about it, and I got on my little laptop at the time, and I just started this master class, and I started with New Earth. That was the book that I read, and we went into the power of now, and I took this master class, and I started to feel different. I started to awaken to my purpose, which now I can identify that, but back then I couldn't. But I started to awaken to that purpose. I started to see the light at the other end of the tunnel. And I just started to follow my feeling. And I started to say, you know what, I trust. And that is definitely one thing that I know now. I was born here on this earth in this lifetime to be a sage. I was a sage of the world. I just didn't know that. I've always been spiritual. I've always had that connection. But then what happened was I was then led to understand what life coaching was. I was like, what's a life coach? And then after researching all the schools, the spiritual life coach really stood out for me. And I liked the teachings of Dr. Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson and, all of the great leaders of our time. So I decided to go with that school, and I decided to become a spiritual life coach. And so I started school in 2006, and it was at that moment, I kind of sought out that for a few months. And then in 2009, I became certified, and I graduated, I got certified, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was very intimidated by coaching. I was very scared at that time. I was like, oh, what if I get a client and they have, a serious mental illness and I can't identify it, and then something horrible happens to them and I didn't save them. What am I going to do with this? And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I kept trusting that I was being led. And I wasn't making any more money. I was putting myself more into debt by, going to this school, which was very expensive at the end of the day. And then when I got done with school, literally like the week I got certified in that, I was introduced to the company that I work for in MLM. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just felt like intuitively like I need to do this. This is the next step for me. This is why I became a spiritual life coach. And so I then joined that company, and I always say the Holy Spirit just brought me right to VP land. Like I became a VP very quickly. Within 5 months, I was making $5,000 a month. I was doing all of these great things, and it just made sense to me because when I followed my life, like I was always fascinated by beauty, right? I was in the beauty industry my entire life. You know, I loved fashion. I loved all of that stuff. So the company I work for, it was holistic. I went to school to be a holistic nutritionist for a short time. I thought that's something that I wanted to do. So I was aligned with the philosophy behind the company, and the products were aligned with me. And I was like, okay, I never even tried a product. And I was like, I need to do this. And I was just led. So I really thought I became a spiritual life coach for the company that I was working for. And then I made it to the top of the company within 2 years, and I went dark because I separated from my true self. And I started to get very caught up in the, go to the top and make more money and do this and get that title and promote more people and boom, boom, boom. And then of course, with all of that pressure comes a lot of self-doubt, right? And it's like, am I doing this right? And I started to just separate. Now, again, I can identify that separation and how that was happening and how poignant that time in my life, I think it was 4 years ago to be exact, I just went really, really dark. And I found myself getting back into that depression of 2006. But it wasn't quite like uncontrollable. Like I felt like I was just so out of alignment. And I honestly didn't even know I was really that depressed, right? Because I went unconscious. And so when I woke back up at some point, again, it was that come to Jesus moment in my bedroom. It was that one day where I was screaming at God, and I'm like, what the F do you want from me? What do you want? Where do you want me? What do you want me to do? What do you want? What do you want from me? Why do I keep struggling? And I heard this voice, and it said, you're choosing to struggle. And I remember just sitting on the bed. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And I know some of you know what I'm talking about. I know some of you know those crazy conversations we have.
I just have to laugh because I think most people know exactly what that is.
Yeah. And I'm just being really honest because it was that moment where I was like, okay, I'm listening. Go ahead, tell me. Tell me. And, and everything you learn and everything that you work for and everything that you've done so far, you expect this grandioso, this voice to come out of the sky and just tell you exactly what to do. And you think it's going to be complicated, and it's so simple.
Wait a second. Did I just hear what you... Hold on.
Yeah. And I'm like, you want me to what? And it was like, you need to go back to just being happy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I'm not happy. You're right. Okay, I'm not happy. How am I going to be happy? And I heard, clean your room. Honest to God. I'm not even kidding. Clean your room. I'm not even kidding. So, I was never, my mother, I know this is going to sound so crazy, but my mother was a clean freak growing up. And she had one rule in the house. And it was make your bed every morning. And if you didn't make your bed, you would get yelled at. I mean, crazy. She would bust through our doors on Saturday mornings really early with the vacuum cleaner. She wouldn't even unlock it. She would just, boom! Like she would just open it enough that it would open, like when she pushed the vacuum through it. And she'd be like, get up, make your bed, you know? And so I think like as an adult, like when I got like my own place and I was like, I'm not making my bed. Like there was this total resistance around it, right? And so it honestly started with that. And I said that day, I was like, I am going to get out of this funk. I'm not only going to find true happiness, I'm going to find the answers and I'm going to share it with the world. And that's what I'm going to do. And I promise you, God, I am going to do that, like right now. Like that's like what I'm going to do. So fast forward, I started to be diligent on really simple, tiny things every single day. And they had a ripple effect within my life. So one of them was I made my bed every day. I started to declutter the stuff. Like I have a lot of clothes. I am by no means a hoarder. I, have a very nice, neat house and everything like that. But like everybody else, I might have like piles of clothes when I'm packing or unpacking or, whatever. But I do have a lot of clothes that I don't think I really need. And so sometimes it's just a matter of putting them away or piling them up in the corner of my closet, and trying to figure out. But I felt like I needed to get rid of stuff. That's all I can tell you. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get rid of stuff. So I started just to clean every single drawer and every single, I just started with a room and I made a sacred space for me. And so long story short, good morning, Marlena. So one of the things that I really did was I said I was going to write an ebook, on 5 things that really raised my own vibration and started to clear the path. And that's exactly what I did. So I wrote the free ebook, which is, it's on my website and I think you've shared that. And that was sort of the start. I started with a website. I really didn't know what I was going to do with that 4 years ago. I really thought my path was my company. And then I just heard that voice, like, you're going to start cleaning up and you're going to open a website. And that's really what I started with. And then over time, I just evolved to just opening up more and more to my purpose and understanding that my own awakening was my true gift. And that's what I was going to share with the world, just how to awaken to your purpose, right? Just those wake-up calls, how to identify them.
So good. So good. I feel like we could talk about everything for like ever right now. I loved how all of those like dark moments serve you, which is very, very, very difficult when you're in the middle of all of that to understand that. Cause it's like, but without those dark moments, like you don't get to where you are, it's like, that's your fuel that you use then to create this incredible.
Yes, exactly.
So that's really cool. And I love the fact that your mom said, the fact that God told you to clean your room and your mom was like, make your bed.
And so it was like this resistance, do you know what I mean? And I recognized that there was this resistance and it wasn't really about making my bed. It was just about, it was a connection. I think part of the whole thing for me is that my gift is really teaching people the metaphysical side of things, right? Mm-hmm. So here's the physical side of it. This is what really happened in your physical life, but here's the non-physical lesson. Right. And that's what I focus on. So the thing with my mother was there was this resistance about me. At that moment, I needed to just hear that and be like, what the hell? Because if it was like make tomato sauce, it wouldn't have made sense to me, but it was make your bed, which was a trigger, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to like, and so in other words, in our language, right? Because the metaphysical side, it's a vibration. And so for my language, in order for me in the human physical side, for me to hear it, it was make your bed. But what I really understood to happen as I was doing the lesson, right, as I was taking action on that, was create a sacred space.
Mm-hmm.
That was really it wasn't really make your bed.
Right.
The bed was just the physical, right? So I hope that makes sense.
No, for sure. Ashley has a great comment. She says, crisis comes to serve the person who chooses to use it as fuel. Right. I love that.
Right. Crisis actually is reason for an opportunity, right? So I think I don't know if it's the Japanese, but they say that crisis actually is just, reason for opportunity.
Totally. You know what I've really been thinking about just this past week or so? I've been trying to reframe those times when, say, it's the things I would usually run from, things that make me uncomfortable, fear, anxiety, whatever. When those opportunities come, or whatever it might be, reframing it instead of running from it and going, okay, what opportunity is this then providing me? If it's anxiety, it's okay, here's your opportunity. Instead of leaning into the anxiety, you get a chance to learn how to trust and how to have faith and how to have patience.
Right, exactly.
So it's okay, what is this opportunity? Instead of the fear, what is the opportunity being presented to me? Okay, this is your chance to learn, blah, 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 blah. It's 2 weeks kind of embracing that. Those thoughts have been really transformative for me. So I want to talk about your work. What do you specialize in? Let's talk maybe about your courses that you put together. Let's talk about your one-on-one coaching. What is your specialty?
So the course, what my specialty is how to differentiate between the ego, mind, and the spirit, right? Who we are truly, and then how to recognize the shadow self, because your relationship to yourself is the most important relationship in your life. And so when you can master the relationship between you, your true self, and your ego mind, instead of resisting the ego mind, which a lot of people think, and sometimes you'll hear even me say it, but it's just a way to communicate what we're really trying to say to certain people that are, as I say, in layman's term, right? Because the ego mind, you start off thinking it's a bad thing, right? And you have to kind of there's a lot of resistance around the ego mind. So it's shut up and go sit in the corner. I've got work to do. And I've even said that a lot of times. But at the end of the day, it's recognizing how your lower self talks to you, and then which voice is going to lead you, where are you going to choose, right? Because we have the will to choose. Am I going to listen to my lower self, right, the ego mind, or am I going to listen to my higher self, the true spirit, that's trying to lead me in the right direction and get out of the logical mind, right? So that sort of really is my specialty, is how to differentiate between that. So what I really work on a lot of times is in the beginning, and how my signature course is a course in self-mastery. And so it's helping you to identify really the self, the true self. And so we need that distinction, though, right, between the lower self and the higher self. And so once you learn that distinction between the two and how they talk to you, then you start to just, you start to open up into your destiny and your purpose, and it becomes clearer. So that really is what I do. And so I do it in a way that I just understand, and I can't really explain it. And it kind of reminds me of when I was a hairdresser, right? So I was a master hairstylist and colorist, and I was asked by Wella many, many times to platform work, do platform work and go on stage and travel the world and all of that. And I kept giving it up. And so I just understood color, because when I started in the professional world of hair, I actually worked for my dad for 8.5 years. And I had this little back room in his barbershop, and I literally was like the mad scientist back there. I had no boss, really, because my father was just a barber. He didn't do color. He didn't go to school for that. And I used to sit back there and I just through experience, just through trial and error, and just through self-teaching, and I would just do color and I would make these formulas, and I didn't know why I was doing them, but I was connected and I was understanding, and I was, so when I was asked to teach, thank you, Andrea, I love you too. I can only see like some comments pop up periodically, so I don't know where they all are, and I'm afraid to put on my
I'm not really sure where they all are half the time either. So.
Awesome. And I want to be able to like answer questions, so I don't know if you can help me, like, you know, see any of that. So anyway, I would just like sit there like the mad scientist, and I just would have a download and I would just do it, and I couldn't articulate it. And again, I think that's because I was always so out of my logical mind, and I can identify that now that I am a true artist, you know? And so we are here on earth to just take that art that we are gifted with, and that's our God self, and we use our art, you know, as an expression of our God self. And so however we can deliver that message is how we're supposed to deliver it. Even if you can't understand it articulated, just do it. And does that make sense? So I really wanted, about 2 years ago, I started to understand this online coaching world, and I was like, oh my God, like, I think I just found the next best thing, because I am always looking for the next best thing, you know? And I was like, I just found the next best thing. And I started to dream about a course, and I was like, I knew immediately, I'm like, A Course in Self-Mastery, like that's my course, that's my signature course. And then last year I really had the guts finally to just open it up. And again, I got stuck. No matter how mastered you become, and no matter how ascended you become, new level, new devil, the ego just gets, you know, quieter and sneakier, and sometimes even louder, you know? So it just kind of manipulates its way like the serpent on the tree, and it just slithers around and sees where your weakness is as you're growing and just stings you. And so I just kept feeling like technology's not my thing, and I was so intimidated, and I felt like I needed to have it all together, and I was trying to make it easy. And so I just seriously was like, I am freaking doing this. And like I do anything else, I just move into action. So if I can tell anybody, you know, here today, is just move into the direction of what it is you want to do somehow, some way. And an example of that for me was when I wanted to build my dream home. It seemed really ridiculous, guys. The land was $130,000. The house was like $600,000. I mean, the amount of money that my house costed at the end of the day, like when all is said and done, was about $800,000. I was working from home. I was a stay-home mom. My husband made about $120,000 salary back then. Okay, so I didn't know how it was going to work out, and on paper it looked totally ridiculous, like it was never going to happen. But I knew, and I started to move. So the first thing I did was I got an architect. And so you are the architect of all of this and everything that you are meant to do. So the first thing I did with the course was I got someone that was like my web girl. I think that was the first person I called. And I was like, okay, I want to open a course. What do I need? She's like, okay, how many weeks? I'm like, 5. So I did 5 modules. And then I was like, okay, what are the 5 most important things that I would teach somebody, right, who wanted to really master who you are? Because mastering who you are and the inner game far outweighs any freaking strategy out there. And so there are so many strategies, but strategies, you constantly hit a wall. And if you don't have the inner game right, you're only getting so far, right? So I wanted to create something that somebody had the tools forever, that they can constantly go back and look at that course. So that is a signature course. And because it's a little bit hardcore, It's not a course that I run evergreen yet. I haven't figured out how to quite do that yet because I feel like I need to be present with my students during that whole time, and I need to be their spiritual guide along the whole thing because I want them to feel safe and I want them to really get it. So that was the one course, and now I'm opening up. That was kind of like what we call Course in Self-Mastery 101, and now I'm opening up 201 next because now my 101 students are like, I want more. What are we going to do? So that will be opening up in September. So what I'm going to do is run a Course in Self-Mastery again. We launch it for the end of August, beginning of September.
I love it. I love it. I think one of, can you hear my kid? You want to see her? She's like, I want a book. I want a book. Say hi. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh my gosh.
Say hi. I think my favorite part of that lesson that you just shared with us is you need to move. Like the path doesn't get laid out in front of you in whole, just the next step. That next step comes and you can't see the whole path until you take the first step. And so, it's a big lesson in faith. And, it also reminded me of your work. Have you ever heard the two wolves, the fable of the two wolves? Oh, it's awesome. I'll read it to you. It says, an old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he said to the terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. One is evil. He regret, greed, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority. The other is good. Peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf wins? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings me to my next thing, which was why I trademarked the spiritual grind last year. So that's another thing that I was, given direction to by my higher self. And I was like, what will it look like? Like, what will the spiritual grind look like? And I didn't know have it all together, the spiritual grind. But what I knew was that I don't even know. Is she still there? Did she take her headset off? Thank you so much, Andrea. I saw that. Can you hear me?
No, okay. I had to run and go get the baby some colors and coloring books.
Okay. I didn't know if I should keep talking. I was like, okay, wait. Squirrel. I am so squirrel. So, but I trademarked the spiritual grind because I felt like it's a daily grind. And I don't see the word grind as a bad thing. I think it's good because, again, new level, new devil. And none of us are Jesus. None of us are Buddha. We're here on this earth. We're human. If I punch you, it's going to freaking hurt. And on a daily basis, we need to grow and learn constantly, daily. And so that inner game, it is a grind. It is a grind. No matter how successful you are, no matter how much work you do, no matter how much content you put out to the world, right? We are born to advance, and the people like us, the people in this group that are on that path, we're born to advance. And when you're not advancing, you're dying. Your soul is dying, and it hurts. And it hurts people like me. And I wanted to put the spiritual grind together because I wanted to find people like me who wanted the daily work and that were willing to that were just willing to do it, and self-master themselves, because as we continue to know who we are, we gain more clarity. And as we do the work, right, we gain more clarity on our purpose. So it's not just about, because the ego will keep you on the long path of struggle, right? It'll make you think, here's a big myth. It's going to make you think you need to have all your shit together. Your blocks need to be all cleared. No, you need to be in the right vibration and with the right people in the right group to help support and hold you up, right? Because you can do all of those things that you need to do even before you're completely healed. I had a lot of healing to do around money. I'm still healing. I'm still healing every freaking day. And guess what? We teach what we most need to learn. I teach that shit daily. And as I teach it, because when you think about it, it's kind of like Napoleon Hill's like auto-suggestion, right? When the reason why people that do the work, right, go further in life is because they're speaking into their purpose. They're speaking into their future. They're speaking into their vision, right? So like for me, when I talk to my team, let's just say in my MLM company, and I say, if you're not speaking the opportunity, if you're not talking the opportunity, that's why you're not getting what you want, because what's inside of you is vibrating and your ego is pushing it down. So now you have this discord and you have this total, you're not resonating right with that. You're kind of resisting it. So you need to speak that. You need to get that shit out to the world, because even if you're not clear enough, you just speak into your vision and you just say, this is what I have to offer and this is what I see and this is what I want, and come with me. And so as you start to do that more and more, my voice is vibrating. It's putting out this energy, and I am declaring to the universe through action, not just but sitting there and just going, I'm going to get this shit. It's all going to come to me, and then you just don't do anything and it just does. No, that's not how you're going to do that stuff. You're going to get the downloads. You're going to have the courage, that 20 seconds of courage, and you're going to put that shit out there, and you're going to go, I'm going to talk about money, even though I'm not exactly where I need to be, but I need to figure this shit out, and I'm going to do it anyway. Does that make sense? So
that was awesome.
Because I trust and I do all of that. And when our feelings, this is another thing, like our feelings are actually healing feelings from our divine source. So when we feel like we're, afraid or sad or angry, that is just an opportunity for you to go, holy crap, it's like, where am I out of alignment? What am I angry about? What am I jealous about? Okay, because your lower self, is trying to get you somewhere. Then you go, oh, okay, I'm angry. And instead of me being angry at this person and trying to blame them, and I feel betrayed, right? Because a lot of us have felt betrayed in our lives by a company, by people or whatever. And instead of you feeling betrayed, all that anger is teaching you and your higher self, right, to get to your higher self, is to create boundaries, healthy freaking boundaries. It's all about boundaries, right? And so it's important to know that, oh shit, I feel like crap today. All the work I'm freaking doing is not working. No, it's working. It's working. It's just that today, in this moment, right now, you need to listen to something. What is it? It's not about all the work you've done. You've done a good job. You are a servant leader. Keep forward, right? Stay the course. But right now, right this second, right today, what are you feeling frustrated about? What are you feeling sad about? What are you feeling? Don't let the ego drag you in the fucking past. You ain't going to get nowhere with that. Do you know what I mean? The ego's going to want to keep you in the past or future tripping. And so when you feel sad, you go, just right now, Anna, right now, why am I feeling like this? And then boom, spirit will talk to you, right? And so a lot of times with jealousy and competitiveness, and I'll just talk about that because a lot of people ask me about that. If there's a moment in time where you're like, okay, I'm feeling really jealous, it's just that awareness, right? Awareness. All right, I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. I have imperfect behaviors, right? And this is an imperfect behavior. I don't want to be jealous. Nobody wants to be jealous. Nobody wants to be. We don't wake up and go, oh, at about 2:00, I'm going to be jealous. that is not like our mission. We wake up in the morning and we're like badasses. We're like, okay, I'm going to like meditate. I'm getting my shit. I'm owning my life. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like we don't wake up and go, oh, at 12 o'clock, I'm going to be so angry. Those are like things that are going to trigger us along the way. And our job is to be responsible, to respond with ability on how we're going to step up to those feelings and honor those feelings, right? So when we feel jealous, it's like, okay, why do I feel jealous right now? You're my spirit animal, Andrea. So right now, why do I feel jealous? And you know what it always winds up being, guys? It always winds up being because I want that. I want that shit, right? And so if my eyes can see it, then it's mine. It's mine. So you know what? Go on with your bad self and making that $50,000 or $100,000 on your course, because that just means that I'm capable of that. And God has crossed our paths because he wants me to see what's possible, and he wants me to hunger for that. That's when you're hungry, that's when you are alive. Not because you don't have it, because you're hungry for it. Means that now you woke up in the morning, you're blessed. You can walk, you can talk, you can put on that computer, you have a computer, you have a phone, you have a mouth. Go out and rule your world. Go out and rule your kingdom.
Well, you make my job super easy. And I got tons of feedback.
Oh, okay. I can't. I see them periodically. So.
All right. Oh, better. I don't know if we had a video open, but you make it so easy because you just like went to town, girlfriend, and that was awesome. I loved it. So guys, watching the video, if you guys have questions for Anna, go ahead and throw them in the comments because we're going to get to them in just a minute. And I loved everything that you talked about. So right now, I know we have what's it called?
Being spiritually boss. Yeah. So when I started to really tap into like who I was and what I wanted to teach and everything like that, I love being able to help people, start a business or have a business or, really step into themselves and monetize really who they are. And being spiritually boss just kept, it just kept coming up for me. I was like, spiritually boss, what does that mean? So it wound up being just a mini course that I put together. And that's what I'm running right now. It just started on Monday. And it's a 4-week course. And it's really about the things that you need to be spiritually boss in your life, really. Like to be that badass, and because you will go through failures. I have had many, many failures. You'll have more failures than you will successes. The successes really outweigh the failures, but you need to go through them. And so for me, I've learned through all of that. And so what I did was I just created a 4-week focus group. And week 1 is all about deciding. It's about getting crystal clear on what your true desires are. And every single day, I just keep people focused on that, right? And then week 2 is all about reinventing yourself. So are you bored? Are you uninspired? And want to let go of the egoic, fear-based identities that no longer serve you, right? Because we are reinventing ourselves so many times over in our life. And so what the ego does is it creates an identity with you, right? It creates this identity. And so when you want to up level and when you want to get to the next level, you need to shed those identities that no longer serve you. And so we're reinventing ourselves and we're just learning more about how to step into that higher self, right? And then week 3 is about going from middle class to world class. And you're made for more, and it's not about being ashamed or feeling guilty about knowing what you're worth. And so a lot of us kind of pulled ourselves back and we put that lid on ourselves because we only know a certain level of success. And it's at that level of success that our ego comes in and says, you don't really know anything beyond this, girl. And then we need to bust through that and we need to become world class to get to that next level. And then week 4 is all about spiritual selling, which is one of my lessons in the world. And it's just about being aligned with who you are and being unapologetic about getting paid for it. Right. So that's what the 4-week course is. And then eventually I'm going to open a membership for my, for people. And the website's going to be Spiritually Boss.
I love it. I love it. So if you guys want to learn more about Anna's work, you guys can go to her website, annagaspari.com. Definitely join her email list because you'll get her 5 steps to create clarity and
vibrations.
See, there you go. It's awesome. Join her IT list. You guys can learn about things that are to come. And then you guys can also jump over to her Facebook group. If you search The Spiritual Grind in Facebook, let me see if I can pull it up and put it here for you guys. But I'll also tag it in the comments.
I have a business page, and I don't do a ton on there, I have to say. The closed group is where more of my work is. I don't know. I'm resistant with my business page. I don't know why. I don't like business.
Well, because it's a lot. When you look at everything you have to, you're like, I have an Insta, I got 5 Facebook groups, and I got a website, and I got to run courses somehow and coach people, and it's just a lot of stuff. But I totally hear you. So definitely use those resources. We're going to give away a free 30-minute clarity session.
Yay!
So I'm excited about that. So all you guys that are up here commenting either during the live or during the replay or asking questions, we're going to put everybody into a drawing over the weekend, and one person's going to work one-on-one with Anna, which is going to be pretty awesome.
Are there any questions?
Maybe you can talk about this. So Jeanette says, sometimes I feel so driven and focused that I feel too driven and focused and I'm hitting walls. Ooh, this is good.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you're just trying to control. I would say surrender some of that control. And I don't know if that's resonating with you. So if that makes sense. And it's really good. Again, for us driven creators, right? We wake up in the morning and it's like, what do we want to do? And sometimes it's very painful when we're not accomplishing fast enough. So one of the key things for an entrepreneur is to have patience. And it's that paradox, because you have to have, right? God, it has such a sense of humor, because there's the paradoxes of life. And I swear I'm writing a book on this. We have to have a sense of urgency, but yet be patient. It's really, how do I do that? And that is the skill that you'll be learning. Stay in that, just focus on what you need to do day by day. So when you feel like that, when you feel like you're hitting a wall, then just say to yourself, okay, frustration is a healing feeling, right? And so I'm going to think that you're feeling a little frustrated. And the emotional block that the ego wants you to do is judgment. It wants you to judge yourself. So the ego is going to take action and say, you know what, you're not good enough, girl. And it's going to make you feel like you are dissatisfied, right? So all you need to do in that moment, right, to overcome it is be persistent and take it day by day. That's it. Keep present. All of your power lies in the present moment. Don't future trip and don't say what I don't have, because as the more you accept that where you are is where you need to be, and the more present you stay, and the more you get into action and do it anyway, your purpose will find you faster and you'll start to manifest what you want. So I hope that made sense to you.
100%. 100%. I love it. You know how we were talking before we got on this live, we were kind of talking about what Anna had going on this weekend. She's getting ready to go to a 3-day leadership conference for some of the people that she works with, and she's going to be speaking on stage. And we were talking about how sometimes when you're on that brink of you're almost to the next level, that wanting it so bad creates that scarcity. And it's you keep that chasing. It's man, that's why it keeps going from you. Let's see what Marlena said. She said, I've noticed that since I started working on clarity, moving forward, and building who I am, that some people want to throw roadblocks in my way. How do I deal with them?
Yeah. As you move up forward, you're going to trigger people in a big way. So your passion and all of that, your vision is going to trigger someone else's inadequacies. And so, remember that. So you kind of want to like give them love, give them light. And I know it's not easy. Trust me. I have people throwing daggers at me all the time, but the further out on the skinny branch you get, the sharper the daggers. And so that's why your self-mastery and your inner game is so important. That is not something that I can just say in one sentence that's going to help you right this second, other than work on your inner game daily. It is the spiritual grind. It is the 18-inch journey, if you haven't heard that before, from your head to your heart, of who you really are and your path. And what they do to you is none of your business, and you need to let that go. Yeah, so unfortunately that person is in my home. Yeah, sister, that's the whole conversation.
Right? Sometimes those people are almost put into our life. Like there's a reason those people show up, and it's almost to like expose those insecurities so that you can be made whole. So,
and so continue when they are in your home, continue on that journey even more so. Do not try to convince. Your job is not to convince someone else. Your job is to elevate someone to your vibration, not to prove something to them, right? And so just elevate your own vibration in the light of who you are and your purpose, but don't try to convince someone else. They don't want to know. You can't make someone want to get on your path.
You know what's funny when you're saying you don't have to prove anything to anybody? If you're like me, you kind of have like that fight in you. You're kind of like, a little bit of a fighter. So for a really long time, one of my big things was like, I'm going to prove people wrong. And that's what but how, life works, whatever your intention is, what shows up. And so people would show up in that way, like in a negative, discounting. It would give me people to prove wrong. And then ever since I shifted that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to prove I don't got to prove to nobody. It's funny how like nobody shows up challenging me. And I'm like, okay, okay.
And you know what? The ego does serve us. The ego does serve like who you were really born to be as well. So I want you to understand that sometimes, right, it's kind of like, again, you're making a choice every single day, either to work in your lower self or your higher self. Every single time that you have an opportunity to choose, it's either in the lower self or the higher self. And sometimes that fight is so strong between that ego and that spirit, right? And so it's kind of like when your back is up against the wall and when you feel like you have something to prove, embrace that and just be like, spirit is winning. Like, that's the alpha male. Like, man, I am the alpha male. Like, I'm going to do this and allow it to fuel you in not like, I'm going to prove this to that other person, but I'm going to prove this to my God self, because this right here shows me what the freak I'm made of. And so that's how I get out of the physical world, is I go metaphysical on that shit, because I'm like, nah, this is just somebody that looks like a person. Her name seems and appears to be Beth or whatever it is. But you know what? This is God telling me how good I am. This is God telling me what I'm made of.
I need that on a t-shirt. I go all metaphysical on that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Yes.
Oh, that's rad. That's rad. Somebody make that for me, please. Oh man, yes.
Spiritual warfare, and that's why I trademarked the spiritual grind, because I was like, this is like a daily grind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're not in it, man, somebody use the analogy of like, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Gabby. It could have been Andy. It was somebody I was watching recently. They were talking about that process is very similar to like a musician, how like every time a musician goes to play, they're tuning their instrument. It might have been Andy. And, you know, a guitarist like is constantly like tuning it, because if you don't constantly tune it, it sounds horrible. And so it's very similar to our spiritual practice. Like if you're not doing it, it's like you will just go off the deep end, you know? It's like if I was going from where I am to where Anna is, and like I'm 1% different on the degree, I end up in a completely different place. And so constantly tuning in to, okay, what is this? What is this? Yes, we always have to tune. I think it was you, Andy. Thank you.
What I do with my clients, like when I do work one-on-one with a client, what I do is I have what we call self-mastery assignments, and I just kind of go into, like, it depends. Like I have about 11 assignments that I work with clients with, but you might start with surrender instead of forgiveness, or I might start with someone else with self-parenting. So it really is about, self-mastery is really about getting our own emotional dependency needs met by us. So we have to reparent ourselves, and we have to constantly give our own, we need to validate, right? Like we need to validate ourselves. And so that's really what I teach people through the assignments. And so if anybody was wondering, because I know a few people hopped on late and stuff, and then I try to help them connect their life story, you know, the lessons along the way, their behaviors, why they behave that way, how their ego talks to them, and then how they can just create that, let go, and move forward, right?
Love it. I love it. Well, we're coming up on our hour. Let me go ahead and put up your website again so everybody can go over there. This was good stuff. I'm so glad you came on.
And
That's
then
awesome.
I just wanted you to know that if anybody wanted to jump into being spiritually boss, I just started on Monday. I have everything on lives. Everything is recorded. I go on there daily. I really work with my clients just to sort of make sure that they're really taken care of. And so I put a lot of effort into the people that are in the courses and make sure that they're getting what they need. Even if they feel a little behind, I'll call them and stuff like that. So, but it isn't too late. We just started on Monday, and I feel like we're just getting warmed up.
Wonderful. And how do they find out information about how to register for that if they want to? Is it on the website?
I can put a link in here.
Yeah, go ahead and drop the link in the comments, or you guys can always reach out to Anna via private message, but definitely go to her website, sign up, go over to her Facebook group, The Spiritual Grind. You'll get some really good stuff in there. If you guys really love this stuff, help us grow our tribe, because the impact that we have on the world is really by getting this good info every week out to more and more people. So add them to the group if they're like-minded. If they're not, we don't want their negative vibes up in here. So if they are high vibe and they like this, more power to you to add them. And then next week we have Jen Morgan coming on. I think we're going to be talking a little bit about crystals and using all of that, and, you know, a spiritual journey again. So with that, thank you for coming on. Love to have you on again in a couple of months. Yay. All right. Well, you guys all have a good week. We're going to give away a clarity session over the weekend. So if you guys have any further questions, go ahead and throw them up there. Tag Anna so she can respond to you. And thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.